So this episode is because of you, because so many of you have asked for a conversation with other makers and artists about their business and about how they do what they do. Today, I'm bringing you a conversation between two Starship captains, Joeli Kelly of JoeliCreates.com. She's a teacher and a coach, and she's my friend. She is talking to Mary Roth, who is the nerdy dyer behind Elemental Fiber Works, which is where you're going to find yarn and fiber with a science theme. I love her stuff. It's awesome. So listen in for their conversations about milestones and goals and what they get out of the Starship. By the way, the Starship is open right now. It closes in just a couple days if you're listening to this when it came out live, and you can all the time go to tarswiger.com/starshipbiz to read more about it. If it's open, you can join. If it's already closed, that's okay. Sign up. If there's still a couple spots left, I'm going to open it again at the end of the holiday season, around December 27th, for those of you who couldn't join before the Christmas holidays. So go to tarswiger.com/starshipbiz, B-I-Z, and to find links to the excellent Joeli and Mary, head over to tarswiger.com/podcast237. I hope you love it.
Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Explore Your Enthusiasm. I'm Joeli and I'm filling in for Tara today while I interview some Starship captains. So I'm here with Mary today. So why don't you introduce yourself and tell us what you do?
Great. So I'm Mary of Elemental Fiberworks, and I dye geeky yarn and fiber for people who love science. That's I started in 2015, and I'm still here. So it's been pretty good.
So you've been going for about 3 years now?
Almost 4. It'd be January.
Awesome. And what made you decide to start dyeing yarn? How did you get started?
I like to tell people it's a series of rabbit holes. I picked up knitting and crochet in college. My grandma had taught me years before, but I had forgotten. And then I had friends who crocheted, and then we both learned to knit. And then we started taking apart sweaters from Goodwill to get cheap yarn. And then I thought, I could dye that. Pink is a terrible color, but it's cheap yarn, so I can change that. And then that kind of led to, well, I could make my own yarn. And if I can make yarn that somebody has dyed the fiber for, I could dye the fiber too. But it was a couple of years still before I actually started dyeing for sale instead of just for myself.
And what made you take that leap to dyeing, to deciding to sell your work and charge for it?
I think mostly I needed something to do. I wasn't actually employed at the time. We had just moved from Oregon, where my husband was doing his master's, to Washington after he had found a job. And I had, told a couple of people about my interest in starting to dye and, needing fiber pretty cheap. And there was another dyer actually who offered to send me at wholesale prices 5 pounds of fiber to get me started. And so I took her up on that. And I don't know, it kind of just snowballed from there. I also have on Ravelry a really supportive forum, one of the groups that I'm in. And they were like, yes, do that. You should do it. So I had a lot of encouragement from outside sources, and that group probably made up 90% of my sales for at least the first 6 months.
And at what point in your business did you decide to join the Starship?
That was about, I actually had to go look. I took notes on this last night. So about 6 months in, I realized things were starting to get kind of real and that I should make sure I was profitable. And I found Tara, I forget how, I think another business person recommended her. And I took Pay Yourself, which was one of her classes she had up at the time. And after that, I kind of hemmed and hawed about actually joining the Starship for a while. And then finally did at the end of that year. So it'd be the end of 2015.
I love that. So what kind of gave you that push at the end of the year to join?
I think my husband was a big part of it because he's always been really supportive. And he saw that once I had started like taking courses and being a little more professional and rigorous about things, that I was getting further than I thought I could have. So he really encouraged it. And at that point, I just knew that if I didn't invest something more, I wasn't going to get where I wanted to go.
I love that you were able to have that realization kind of so early on. It took me a long time to get there, to ask for the help and to recognize that I needed help. And I love that you were able to do it kind of in that first year of business. I think that's great.
There are a lot of things that I still don't like recognize I need help with, but yeah, that getting that foundation has been really, really beneficial.
Yeah. So, what have been some of the most memorable or important milestones you've sort of hit in your business?
Well, let's just jump straight to this year because I think it's been the year where I've seen the most growth.
Hmm.
And so at the beginning of this year, and this is with 2 years of map making and chart your stars behind me, I set a really big, scary income goal. There are a lot of times where I've strayed from that path and left the maps that I thought I had made and have like gone down different directions. But I'm actually closing in on that big, scary income goal at the end of the year. Which is in no small part due to being able to come back to the maps that I have made and back to that foundation and what I wrote down at the very beginning of the year about where I wanted to go. And then also coming to the chats and checking in weekly. I mean, I had intended to do more wholesale and club sales, and I went the fiber show route instead. Which was really out of my box because I am not a huge people person. But I've had, at the beginning of the year, my husband wrote, "You can do it," on the side of my whiteboard. And that's been there all year. And I look at it every day I'm at the lab. And checking in with the Starship is kind of the same thing. Everyone is just saying, "You can do it." So having the foundation and the background and the people there and the community to come back to is really the only reason I've gotten half as far to the huge scary goal as I have.
So I want to, so you had like so many great points about like how map making and chart your stars helped you, but I want to go back to like that initial moment in January when you set the big scary goal. What kind of things do you think had to shift or change for you to be able to get to that point where you could set that kind of goal?
I think some of it was just like money mindset and
Hmm.
believing that I actually could do it. There's a lot of stuff tied up in that from past experiences and past jobs in college. And I mean, my degree is in interior design, not anything fiber arts related.
Hmm.
So believing I could do it, or at least thinking I could, and then working that into a belief. I wrote a lot of things down in like the long-term goals section of Chart Your Stars that seemed really out of reach. And then I started hitting some of those like halfway through the year. And I'm like, well, okay, let's just keep going. And I kind of took my word for the year. My North Star was expansion. And I couldn't really do expansion and like do it half-heartedly.
Yeah.
That's not how it works.
Hmm.
So that's kind of where I was coming from in setting this goal, which is more than double last year's sales. And I still can't quite believe that I'm this close to it. I don't know if I'll hit it, and that's fine, but I wouldn't be nearly this close if I didn't set the goal in the first place.
Mm-hmm. That is so amazing. First of all, congratulations on getting so close to such a big goal. And I completely agree with you that sometimes we set big goals not so that we hit them, but just so that we get close to them. You know, it's like that pushing. You had to keep pushing yourself all year long. And that's kind of sometimes more valuable than like actually hitting the goal.
Right. And that has taken a long time to learn. I'm sure I'm still not quite there on some goals. You know,
Mm-hmm.
they feel a little more concrete and less flexible like that. But even looking back at times I set things like newsletter goals, newsletter subscribers, or getting, number of people who join the fiber club and that sort of thing. Even having those goals, if they weren't there, I wouldn't have that to aim for. Yeah, it's been a real learning process. And like my sister texted me on my birthday and she's like, "How's the business going?" Well, it's actually pretty great. And she asked, "Did you ever think that you would be running a business?" And I said, "Not in a million years." So yeah, it's crazy.
So, what have you learned about yourself over these past almost 4 years then?
I hate that my first instinct is to say not enough because that's a terrible way of looking at it. I have learned that I still need to figure out what daily structure works best for me, even after almost 4 years. That still kind of eludes me, but I get stuff done. So clearly, it's not something that's wrong. It's just something I feel like could be improved on.
Mm-hmm.
I have learned that I really care about customer satisfaction. I had one batch of the space themed fiber club that I did where half of the batch just kept bleeding red dye and I could not get it to stop. And I had to email everyone and say, "I'm going to have to order new fiber because this is unacceptable." And everybody got coupons in their next package and that sort of thing. And I've also learned that excellent customer service means that your customers are just fine when you have a mistake or have something happen and need to fix it because they'd rather have it fixed than have something that's going to ruin the next thing they make. I've also learned that doing hard things is hard and that's okay. I'm still working on that one. And being like successful, defining success for myself is more important than what other people define success as. And that's a really big thing in my head because I don't have a degree in this, because I went to school and I have a bunch of student loan debt and, still working on paying that off. But it's always kind of led to this sort of insecure feeling in my definition of success and kind of a where did I go wrong thing. But, my business is self-supporting. There's some amount of profit. I should go back in and do my profit math again. It's been a while. I paid for our washer when we moved into the house. I buy myself things like an iPad recently. It's contributing to the well-being of our household, and that's a better definition of success than anyone who says I should make this much money or sell this much product.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I know that's something that Tara talks a lot about in the Starship is finding your own definition of success and finding or building the business that you want, not the business that anyone else wants.
Right.
And
Yeah.
I think chart your stars and map making really help with that. Would you agree?
Oh yeah. Yeah, actually just sitting down and thinking about where you want to go, and where you want to go, not where
Mm.
you think you should be going, or someone else thinks you should be going. Um, yeah, for a couple of days I usually dread sitting down with Chart Your Stars because it means I have to go back and look at the last year and review, and I'm terrible at reviewing like
Hmm.
consistently. So then I have to go back and look at the entire year, and I'm like, no, I don't want to do that. But eventually I do, and maybe it's halfway through January at this point, but it's still the most valuable thing that I do all year. When you come down to it, is setting that intention, um, that I can then base goals off of to move forward through the rest of the year.
Yeah, I'm also terrible at the review process. So you're not alone. I'm also terrible at like remembering anything good that I've done over the past
Yeah,
year.
yeah, that's so difficult. Fortunately, I have some people that are like, will remind me, wait, you did this. You are the person that, got into two waitlisted huge fiber shows this year and kicked butt. You can do the other thing.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, the Starship community is also really good about that
Yeah,
because they have a better memory sometimes. I think it's easier to remember the good things other people have done. So you can kind of ask them, like, hey, what did I do this year? And they'll be like, oh my gosh, you did so much. So, what has been your favorite part of the Starship over the years that you've been in it?
I guess two things. The first one is having structure, having somebody tell me what to do. As much as I've never been quite sure if I've been a rebel or obliger on the four tendencies scale. I feel kind of caught halfway between them. Um, so it's really helpful to have Tara put on her bossy big sister pants and say, no, do this. Um, and then the community. So having other people to check in with and ask questions. And like I've asked for what other people do with their wholesale line sheets. I've asked about, gosh, so many things. I can't even like
Yeah.
pick examples out. I've asked for permission to not have done the thing or to feel terrible about something or just
Mhm.
permission to take a break, which is a big
Mhm.
one. Um, so the community, both for their information and just support, is definitely one of my very favorite things since the beginning.
I love the community there. They are so just supportive. So, what have you got coming up then in 2019? I can't believe it's 2019 soon.
I am still kind of in the middle of planning stuff out. I will have another um, monthly fiber club, but I'll be doing it just a little bit differently than I did. It won't be every month. It'll be um, 3 months at a time with a month break in between to give myself a chance to reset and to be inspired for the next batch and not have to just constantly go. So yeah, there will be a fiber club. Um, Themes will range from, I don't know, you could have like deep sea creatures or molds, lasers. I don't know, anything science.
Mhm.
So if you are like a, I don't know, microbiologist or something and think that I should dye pictures of these awesome microbes, send me an email. I'm always looking for things that people are interested in that I can explore further. Um, yeah, and hopefully I'll be doing more wholesale and being in more shops. And then the fiber shows. So I'll definitely be doing, if you're in the Pacific Northwest, I will be doing, unless plans change radically, I will be doing Black Sheep Gathering and Oregon Flock and Fiber Fest, and hopefully some shows up in Washington too, around the Puget Sound.
Awesome. So, if people are interested in learning more or finding you online, where's the best place for them to do that?
The website is elementalfiberworks.com. That's kind of my home base. You can get linked out to anything else there. You can join my email news list. They're called Lab Reports. So there's a tab where you can join that. And other than that, there's a Facebook group, and I'm also on Instagram, and those are the two most frequently updated places. Usually I'm on Instagram and it posts to Facebook as well, but I check both. So Facebook is, you can search Elemental Fiberworks and the page will pop up and you can like that. And Instagram is Elemental Fiberworks.
Awesome. So we will link to all of those things in the show notes. So wherever you're watching this, the link should be down below. You can click them and learn more about Mary and see what she has to offer. Thank you so much for chatting with me today.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Awesome. I hope you have a great day.
Yeah, you too.
Bye.